On this Thursday night,
it is having an absolutely catastrophic impact.
Alarm and appeals for action in Canada's oil patch as prices hit record lows. What that means for the economy, for jobs, and for your wallet.
We will leave the EU in a smooth and orderly way on the 29th of March 2019.
Derision and resignations, the British Prime Minister under fire over Brexit.
Theresa May cut an isolated figure in the House of Commons today.
Could her plan to leave the European Union cost her her job?
Click on the app, they bring you food. But what happens when these couriers get hurt?
I think it's really messed up. What happened to me could happen to anyone.
CBC News investigates. This is The National.
We begin with a dire warning about this country's economy and an appeal for dramatic action as a key economic engine, the oil patch, faces a dramatic slump in the price of crude. So look at this. The price of Canadian crude tumbled to just $13.46 a barrel today. That's less than the cost to produce it, and it's a record low. So tonight, the head of one of the country's biggest oil sands producers says we are headed for an economic emergency. And as Carolyn Dunn tells us, he's doing something few oil execs would dream of. He is calling on the government to step in.
From the 26th floor of a downtown Calgary office tower, Cenovus Energy is leading the charge for the province to reduce oil production in Alberta to help drive up the prices.
I am saying the government should intervene on an emergency, short-term basis to deal with this acute crisis.
The problem is the widening gap between Canadian and U.S. produced oil. Take West Texas Intermediate, an industry benchmark, and it closed today around $56 a barrel. But Alberta's Western Canadian Select was selling around $13 a barrel. That's a whopping $43 less.
In essence, right now, we are giving away our oil for free.
Part of the reason? There's not enough pipeline or rail capacity to get Alberta oil to market.
This is a clear situation where the markets have failed, and the markets have failed because we have been unable to get the support of governments to get these pipelines built.
This energy analyst says something has to be done, and fast.
The longer that takes, the more everybody suffers, the more likelihood there are layoffs or bankruptcies, and it hurts government deficits in a huge way.
Without a solution, Alberta is looking at up to $5 billion in royalty losses. But not all oil and gas companies agree reducing production is the answer. Companies like Suncor and Husky would see a big hit to their bottom line.
The price of gasoline and diesel hasn't really changed, but they're buying crude at a much reduced price, and so they're making big margins on that.
Premier Rachel Notley says her government will take action, but production cuts are not the only thing on the table.
And to also look at the other options that I say that are at our disposal, that perhaps parties are able to find more consensus on, that will also bring about the kind of outcomes that we're looking for.
But until then, each passing day is costing industry $100 million. Carolyn Dunn, CBC News, Calgary.
And the CBC senior business correspondent Peter Armstrong is here to help us with this. So I know Carolyn touched on it a bit, but why else is Canadian oil just trading so low?
Well, I mean, because we all know the shipping side of this, that there's not enough pipeline capacity to send the stuff to market. The other side, though, is overproduction. I mean, Canadian oil doesn't move very fast. It takes a long time and a lot of money to change how much you produce. So back when oil was at like $100 a barrel, some of those decisions are coming home to roost now. Suncor built this massive oil sands operation in Fort Hills, Alberta. That's now online after years and billions of dollars, but it's producing 190,000 barrels of oil into an already oversaturated market. So that's the discount. Then you look at the global price of oil has fallen 25% in the last 5 weeks. The Russians are producing more than they ever have since the collapse of the Soviet Union. The Saudis, the Americans, everybody's producing more oil at a time when we thought American sanctions were going to effectively bring Iranian oil exports to zero. But the Trump administration's added in all these waivers for Iran, for countries buying from Iran. So, we have more oil than we expected. People are producing more into that. And that's just sort of compounded both the price of oil and the discount that we're paying here.
Okay, so it's clear why the industry would be sweating, but when does it start to impact Canadians?
It already started to. I mean, gasoline prices are dropping. They're expected to hit 99 cents in the next couple of days. The flip side of that, though, is that it would mean a broader slowing of the economy. We saw this in 2014, where investment slowed, GDP growth slowed. It wasn't just the oil industry. We saw construction, shipping, all of those extra jobs begin to fall apart as well.
Okay, always with the good news.
Right.
Peter Armstrong, thanks very much.
You bet.
Another way to illustrate the issue in Alberta, this recent slump in oil prices and the economic downturn have pushed several energy companies into bankruptcy, and they have left behind a big environmental problem in the province. Abandoned oil and gas wells, the number is growing. In 2012, there were less than 100. Today, more than 2,000. These so-called orphan wells pose a problem on a number of fronts. They can contaminate water and soil, leak harmful gases, and even put nearby homes at risk of explosions. Now, the industry is supposed to shoulder the burden of cleaning up the wells, but that cost has already spilled over to landowners and taxpayers. Just last year, the province gave $235 million to the energy industry to clean up those oil wells.
Here's a look at some of the other stories we're working on tonight. They deliver our food at the touch of a button. CBC News investigates food delivery apps and finds out not all employees are treated equally.
And Theresa May remains defiant in the face of a revolt inside her own government. Can she save her Brexit deal and her job?
But first, an Ontario woman is speaking out tonight, haunted by a sexual assault that happened 7 years ago. The man who was once found guilty is invoking an unusual defense. He says he was in a deep sleep during the assault, that he was suffering from sexsomnia, a condition recognized both in science and in the courts. Judy Trin spoke to the woman about the attack, and we should tell you the discussion is graphic.
I know he's guilty, and he does not have sexsomnia.
She still has vivid memories of waking up at a house party after a night of drinking. It happened back in 2011. She had fallen asleep embracing her boyfriend, but woke up a few hours later with her jeans pulled down in pain. A stranger was anally penetrating her.
I was being raped.
The 30-year-old woman wants to tell her story, but a court order prevents us from revealing her identity.
I was just in shock. I was, what is happening? What's going on?
Ryan Hartman was convicted of sexually assaulting her, but won a new trial after bringing forward evidence he had a history of sleepwalking. During his second trial, the defense argued he had been in a deep sleep when he attacked her.
Still to this day, it rattles me because I sat in court and I watched him testify and say over and over again, I do not recall, just denying the entire thing. And then all of a sudden, okay, yeah, I did it, but I was asleep. It just, to this day, it makes me so sick to my stomach.
The sexsomnia defense has been used about 15 times in Canada. In a third of the cases, the perpetrators have been found not criminally responsible. It's now up to a judge to decide if Hartman deserves jail or if he needs psychiatric treatment. This expert says sleep disorders are difficult to prove.
Most of the people that rely on this defense can demonstrate a history of sleepwalking before. Often there's a family history. And then the Supreme Court has been very clear that expert testimony will always be required to establish that this individual in fact suffers from that condition. These are situations that are not easily faked.
Since her rape, the woman says she's fought through drug and alcohol abuse, wrestled with suicide. Now married and working, she says she's a survivor, but worries about falling apart if her attacker isn't found guilty.
I've asked myself a million times, what if the outcome isn't what I think it should be? How will I react? How will I move on? How will I get past it?
After 7 years, 2 trials, and 2 appeals, a Brockville judge will deliver a final verdict on Monday. For the woman, it will result in legal closure, but it may not bring any comfort. Judy Trin, CBC News, Ottawa.
As Judy said, this rarely comes up in court, but sexsomnia is a medically recognized disorder. Colin Shapiro is a psychiatrist and medical director at the Sleep and Alertness Clinic in Toronto, and he actually coined the term more than a decade ago. So let's begin with the description. What is sexsomnia?
Sexsomnia is part of a group of disorders called parasomnias, where people do things that they're not aware that they're doing them.
How is it possible to go through all of this, in this case, having sex, without waking up?
Well, it is surprising, but people can drive their car fair distances and be asleep all of the time. And so it's as if part of the brain is awake and doing certain things, but other parts of the brain is just not aware that you're awake and doing the things that you're doing. And so there is this disjunction, if you like, but the art of the exercise is to try and work out if people are for real or if they're fabricating, and one has to look at a whole variety of things to come to that conclusion.
How easy would it be for somebody to say they have it and not really have it?
Certainly people could try, but in this situation, one has to look at the balance of all the factors that are relevant, and that includes things like a personal history, a family history, what other partners might have said and experienced before. But there is never an absolute certainty, and it's always going to be on the balance of probabilities as to whether this is very clearly a sexsomnia. The issue is that it's a very common condition, much more than people realize, much more than I realized when I first described it, and about 7% of people who come to the sleep clinic have had that sort of an experience.
All right, Dr. Shapiro, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Alrighty. Meanwhile, there's a political drama being watched across the world. What appears rather to be a leader slowly losing her grip on power. But the British Prime Minister is refusing to give up her battle to save Brexit and ultimately her job. Theresa May could be facing a mutiny. Several of her Conservative ministers quit today over her plan for Britain to leave the European Union. Thomas Deglin now on the deal and the defiance.
The road to Brexit sure is bumpy. It's a national obsession, and even in his taxi, John Day can't miss a second of the debate.
And the challenge for all of us in this House.
That's Theresa May on the radio and in trouble.
Well, I think she's between a rock and a hard place, and it's not an easy job.
The Prime Minister.
Not easy indeed, showing up for work only for colleagues to openly laugh at her.
We will leave the EU in a smooth and orderly way on the 29th of March 2019.
Conservative leadership contacted.
Behold the crowd, assembled to witness today's cascade of resignations in May's own Conservative Party, and the threat the Prime Minister could fall over her Brexit plan, signed off on by Cabinet just yesterday.
Theresa May cut an isolated figure in the House of Commons today and will not be able to get this deal through the Commons with a majority support.
Outside Parliament here, the size of the media circus is a reflection of how important a moment this is for this country's future. The way the Prime Minister sees it, her deal is the only viable option. Otherwise, the UK could crash out of the EU with no deal or end up with no Brexit at all.
The hard Brexit wing of May's party is now plotting her demise in public, submitting letters of no confidence.
This is not Brexit. This is a failure of government policy. It needs to be rejected.
Not all Tories agree.
I think any member of Parliament who thinks that now is a good time to try and pick up the baton and become Prime Minister is deluding themselves.
Once that cabinet meeting...
Nick Robinson co-hosts BBC Radio's Big Daily News show. He's noticed the Prime Minister has one saving grace.
No one's quite ever agreed in her party, however much they don't like her and they don't like her plan for Brexit, who the alternative is or what the alternative is.
Indeed, she's been here before, battling for her survival, and today, as ever, fighting back.
I believe that this is a deal which does deliver that, which is in the national interest. And am I going to see this through? Yes.
She's safe for now, but no one knows where this road really leads. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, London.
Well, she's determined, that's for sure. Now to a CBC News investigation into some of Canada's most popular food delivery apps. See, I got all of your attention. It seems Canadians love them, spending an estimated $1.8 billion this year ordering food using their smartphones and computers. But what are you buying into when you actually use these apps? Our colleagues at Marketplace put 3 of the most popular ones to the test, and they dug deeper into how they treat injured workers. Magda Gebrselassie has more on the investigation that's already led to a review in one province.
Food delivery apps are popping up nearly everywhere.
Which ones do you use? Fedora?
I use Uber Eats, so that's what I'm all about. I use Skip the Dishes.
The appeal is clear.
It is quick, it's convenient.
But Marketplace has discovered that not all apps are equal when it comes to the treatment of injured couriers.
I crashed into the door, and that broke my left hand.
I went right into him.
These couriers work for competing food delivery apps. We've agreed not to identify them because they say they're afraid they'll lose their jobs for talking to us. In Ontario, any couriers who deliver on foot or on a bicycle must be covered by workers' compensation, which companies pay into. But while this Fedora courier was covered when he was injured on the job, this Uber Eats one was not.
I was really stressed. I didn't have enough money to pay my food, to have to save money for everything. Even I have to ask for money from my dad.
Marketplace has learned Uber Eats has no coverage for its couriers on the road. That's because the company is classified as a telephone answering service like a call center. However, Fedora is classified as courier operations, so its couriers are covered. Skip the Dishes status is pending.
I think it's really messed up because the nature of the job, regardless of who you work for, is the same. What happened to me could happen to anyone who does any food delivery job.
Across the country where it delivers, Uber Eats tells us it does not pay into workers' compensation for its couriers, saying in the provinces where Uber Eats is available, independent contractors may choose to register themselves for optional coverage with their province's workers' compensation authority. Skip the Dishes pays for coverage in some provinces and not others, saying they're following provincial regulations. Fedora tells us where it delivers in the country, it pays for compensation coverage for couriers.
We feel that it's important that the worker has protection in the event that they're injured on the job. And in speaking to the regulating bodies, it seemed like it was something that we were able to do and actually supposed to be doing.
We asked the board that manages workers' compensation for an interview to explain why the difference in classification. They decline, but say our questions are leading them to review Uber Eats and the industry as a whole. Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Toronto.
All right, our Marketplace colleagues also put the companies to the test to see which is the cheapest and which is the fastest. And you can watch the battle of the food delivery apps tomorrow at 8 p.m. on CBC Television, 8:30 in Newfoundland.
We're watching a number of other developing stories tonight on The National, starting in Toronto, and new details about an alleged sexual assault at a prestigious all-boys private high school. Police say the school didn't report it to them and that they were only alerted to it by the media. Officers ramped up patrols around St. Michael's College School after an unspecified threat. Toronto police say they believe a graphic video is circulating online of the assault and warns it qualifies as child pornography. The school says it conducted an internal investigation and some students have been expelled. Also tonight, we're keeping a close eye on the Maritimes where several snowfall warnings are in effect. Some places could see between 15 and 25 centimeters of snow by tomorrow. And in Newfoundland tonight, they are cleaning up after a ferocious storm hit. Wind gusts were up to 130 kilometers per hour, blowing over trees, power lines, and leaving thousands without power. The storm also brought a lot of snow with it, leaving people with a big job to do today.
Last night with the high winds and everything, the snow blew right in and stuck right to the living room windows.
According to a meteorologist in Gander, this was the most intense storm on the planet today. Several schools were closed, flights and ferries also canceled, but the storm is beginning to taper off.
It was kind of surreal. No, we didn't know what was going to happen.
And in the middle of the storm in Newfoundland, a Provincial Airlines flight was forced to make an emergency landing. The Dash 8 was supposed to put down in Deer Lake, but there was an issue with the landing gear, so the pilots circled for about an hour and eventually flew to Stephenville Airport. There were 51 people on board. No one was hurt. The Transportation Safety Board is investigating.
Still ahead tonight on The National, world leaders cautioned against the rise of nationalism a couple of times this week. Why now, and what should we make of those comments? At Issue is here to break it all down.
Plus, the demand for cobalt to power your phone or laptop means an old mining town in Ontario could get a boost.
And tired of your old IKEA furniture? Not a problem. The store says starting now, believe it or not, it will buy it back.
I think it's a good idea. It keeps things out of the dumpster, keeps it out of the landfill, and gives people some money back to buy something that they really need and give back what they don't need.
These days, it may be hard to believe that the Earth is actually warming up, but it is more rapidly than ever before.
Over the next 50 years or so, give or take a decade, we're looking at temperatures rising about 1.5 to 4.5 degrees globally.
And warmer temperatures mean the oceans are slowly expanding. Sea levels are expected to rise as much as 1 meter in 50 years. Now, a study by the Department of the Environment says the effect of that could be disastrous for a coastal city like St. John, New Brunswick, especially in a storm. The study says a 1 meter rise in the sea level would cause severe flooding in the St. John Harbor, at the sugar refinery, at the New Brunswick power plant. Roads and causeways could be flooded out, isolating communities from each other and cutting off parts of New Brunswick from the rest of Canada. 2 residential areas could almost be washed away, and so could some of the richest farmland.
The most plausible thing at this time is to simply build in the projections of climate change into the planning process.
That means not building in some flood risk areas and building seawalls and dikes in others. It's all because of the greenhouse effect. Industrial pollution, the burning of coal and gasoline and other fossil fuels are all pumping too many carbon dioxide gases into the atmosphere. And the gases are forming a kind of thermal blanket around the Earth that prevents heat from escaping. So temperatures are going up and oceans are expanding.
Look, we do not have, in this case, some kook on a street corner waving a placard saying the end of the world is coming. We have top scientists advising society that unless certain steps are taken, we are going to have very serious problems.
The Environment Minister agrees Canadians must get ready for a warmer globe, but he's also pushing for an international agreement that would control carbon dioxide emissions.
IKEA has launched a new program in Canada. The furniture giant wants you to bring back that gently used Expedit bookcase or dusty Tobias chair. That's because everything old could be resold. Jacqueline Hansen now on what's behind IKEA's strategy.
Buy it, take it home, and eventually sell it back. IKEA's new program gives its old furniture a chance at a new home.
So this is a really good example of something that we would buy back.
Not everything is eligible. No sofas, mattresses, or kids' furniture, among other things. But for items that IKEA approves, sellers can get back up to 50% of the original value as store credit.
Prolonging the life of products, maximizing the value of materials and keeping them in circulation for as long as possible at their highest possible use.
It's part of a wider corporate trend and in the face of consumer pressure. Reduce waste to save money and ideally the planet. From Tesla's work to recycle its entire battery, to Patagonia buying back their used clothing for resale. IKEA says its new program is part of a bigger push to reduce its environmental footprint.
They came into a lot of backlash about 20 years ago from environmentalists and consumers who said there is a huge amount of the world's wood going into your products, and a lot of that is invariably ending up in the landfill eventually.
This marketing expert says reselling used furniture likely won't make IKEA much money, and it may not be practical for consumers. The furniture has to be returned to the store, fully assembled.
After the effort of returning this huge piece of furniture, they probably won't get the money back that they were expecting, and that could really quell this program's success ultimately.
Some IKEA shoppers say they wouldn't mind buying used.
Often I would actually. I'm fairly handy, so I can, sand a little something, paint a little, change a doorknob.
It keeps things out of the dumpster, it keeps it out of the landfill, and gives people some money back to buy something that they really need.
IKEA says it's already seeing strong demand. In its first week, it received hundreds of inquiries from customers to trade in the old, to shop for something new. Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Toronto.
If someone's already put it together, up next on The National, look who's here for At Issue Night. Andrew, Chantal, and Andre will tackle nationalism and why it seems to be the new political buzzword, for better or worse.
And have you ever heard of cobalt? It's in your laptops and electric cars. And one mining town in Ontario is hoping to tap into all that power.
And you can see that's over a foot wide there. See a lot of pink right there.
So all of this just right up in here, that's cobalt.
Yeah, it's all pink, and that's high-grade cobalt.
There were, as there had been on this and past shuttle missions, delays this morning. This time it was Florida's freezing snap. There were icicles on the launch gantry, and there was a 2-hour delay until NASA officials were satisfied there was no danger. The family of Krista McAuliffe, the first teacher, the first private citizen to be chosen for a space flight, watched the launch.
And liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
Now control. Roger, roll, Challenger. Good roll program confirmed. Challenger now heading downrange.
For a whole minute, the launch went as planned.
Engines beginning throttling down now at 94%. Normal throttles for most of the flight, 104%. We'll throttle down to 65% shortly. Engines at 65%, 3 engines running normally, 3 good fuel cells, 3 good APUs. Velocity 2,257 feet per second. Altitude 4.3 nautical miles. Downrange distance 3 nautical miles.
Mission Control gave the command for the last burst of power to kick Challenger into space.
Engines throttling up. 3 engines now at 104%. Challenger, go at throttle up. Challenger, go at throttle up. One minute, 15 seconds. Velocity 2,900 feet per second. Altitude 9 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
All that was left were the contrails of the bits and pieces of Challenger.
Obviously a major malfunction.
For 45 minutes, rescue craft couldn't get near the debris because pieces of Challenger were still falling from the sky. On the ground, shock. McAuliffe's parents, Edward and Grace Corrigan. It quickly became clear that no one had survived.
I regret that I have to report that based on very preliminary searches of the ocean where the Challenger impacted this morning, these searches have not revealed any evidence that the crew of Challenger survived.
NASA rejected suggestions that the mission had been rushed to avoid the embarrassment of further delays.
There was absolutely no pressure to get this particular launch off. We have always maintained that flight safety is our top priority consideration in the program, and we look at the status and readiness of the systems based on that. We thoroughly reviewed the activities over the weekend and yesterday, and continually reviewed the status of Challenger right up until launch this morning. All of the people involved in this program, to my knowledge, felt that Challenger was quite ready to go. And I made the decision, along with the recommendation from the team supporting me, that we launch.
Over the years, we've learned to take venturing into space almost for granted. The very choice of Krista McAuliffe symbolized that. She was the first ordinary folks to be chosen to go into space. If she could go, why not the rest of us? Today we found out that it isn't that easy. Today we learned the real cost of trying to conquer space.
It's a word politicians have not always embraced, but these days, it's hard to ignore.
I'm a nationalist, okay? I'm a nationalist. Use that word. Use that word.
And world leaders are now addressing it head on.
Le nationalisme en est la trahison.
French President Emmanuel Macron called nationalism a betrayal of patriotism, and our Prime Minister had similar warnings this week.
When people feel their institutions can't protect them, they look for easy answers in populism, in nationalism.
Former Prime Minister Stephen Harper is also weighing in, calling their concerns an example of disconnected elitism. So which one is it? And what, more importantly, are the consequences of those kinds of messages? Chantal Hébert is in Montreal tonight. Andrew Coyne is in Calgary tonight. And Andre Demise is in Toronto. Good to see everybody. Andrew, I'm going to start with you because you wrote about this week. You thought about it. We're all going to think about it now. But what, in your mind, was Macron warning against? Nationalism, something that he's seen before? What was he trying to wake everybody up to, do you think?
Well, there's a kind of nationalism that we've seen in the past and in the present that's divisive, that's intolerant, that's based upon definitions of people based on their ethnicity or their race or their religion or things that are, to a great degree, immutable, and that very easily can be turned against outsiders or indeed people in their midst who don't fit that particular mold. And we are seeing that certainly in Europe, kind of an ethnic-based nationalism, certainly a nationalism that's very hostile to outside forces. We're seeing a version of that in the United States, certainly hostile to foreign, treaties and alliances, and its very worst, white nationalism or racism, to give it a simpler word. So those kinds of things are certainly very worrisome. I think one has to be careful not throwing everything out together, though. There's a version of nationalism that can be quite positive. The nationalism that says, we need to widen our boundaries. We need to look past our internal differences and realize what we have in common as a nation, and directing that towards good purpose. It's trying to achieve great things together. That kind of nationalism, often called civic nationalism, can be a positive thing, can inspire people to very high ideals and shouldn't be dismissed lightly. So I think it's a question of differentiating between good and bad nationalism. I should also say I don't think you should just dismiss critics and critiques of nationalism as just being elitism, as Stephen Harper's trying. I think Macron was trying to make a serious and sober message.
Well, and we can talk more about why he said that or whether there's anything to that. But Chantal, is it a danger to have this existing within you, or as Andrews points out, is there a side to it that is good and healthy and positive and something you want to see in a country?
I think it's dangerous to take a label like nationalism and decide that it's suddenly equated automatically with racism. And I think Canada, and until recently, throughout its presidencies, our countries where civic nationalism has had pride of place, and I see no reason for that to change. But the context is really different. If you want to go to where nationalism became a more scary word in Europe post Second World War, yes, you need to look at what happened in the former Yugoslavia. And I think that kind of poisoned the well of the word nationalism. And then there is the rise, don't forget, Emmanuel Macron, the French president, beat Marine Le Pen, someone who practices ethnic nationalism bordering or crossing into racism. So yes, the context is really different.
Yeah, and he was saying those words on the 100th anniversary of the armistice, because there's a belief that, of course, that was also gave rise to the First World War and the Second World War. But he was also saying, at some belief, not just because Donald Trump was in the audience, but because of all the real dangers in Europe of these kinds of leaders as well. So, Andre, would you say that it is a danger in Canada? Whatever Macron is warning against, is there something to that here?
It can be a danger in Canada. I think when we've seen attacks from organizations like the we have to take that seriously, or organizations like Sons of Odin. But I take exception to the idea that what Macron said in his speech was that patriotism is the opposite of nationalism. I find that completely ridiculous. And I think part of what drives this nationalism that he's talking about is people feeling like the wool's been pulled over their eyes. You know, when Stephen Harper refers to the elites, he's not talking about rich people like his friends. He's talking about people who occupy a high socio-political status, who believe that they know better for the average person and they know for themselves. And when you say something like patriotism is the opposite of nationalism, the root word of patriotism is patris, which is a Greek word that means fatherland. Nationalism is simply the kinship that people feel between one another within national borders, and to some extent in an ethnic sense. And the reason that people turn towards these ideologies is because the economic model that we have now that encourages the growth of capital, encourages the distribution and transfer of capital, but restricts the growth and distribution of people, that we can't move across geographic borders, we can't move across economic classes. When you have that kind of a restriction, they're going to turn to some very dangerous ideas, and I think that's what we're seeing.
Okay, so Andrew, I mean, talk about so that we can sort of bring it down back to earth, if we can, this conversation. What then should people make of us of these things being bandied about practically? What does that mean for them? Is it what Andre's talking about, that people feel disconnected, left behind, falling through the cracks, as Stephen Harper sort of, I think, is trying to get at there?
Well, the germ of truth in all this critique is that when so many problems now involve transnational questions, whether you're talking about climate change or agreement on how to deal with refugees or
trade.
You know, there's a range of these issues that now cross international borders, require a lot of international cooperation. And it's very easy to lose sight of the fact that the organizations that we're setting up that cross these international boundaries don't have a democratic mandate. Nobody elected people to the WTO, for example, that deals with world trade. So it's not completely wrong for people to say when you know, some verdict is rendered by the WTO, wait a minute, I didn't vote for them. Who are they to tell us how we can run our affairs? So the more ambitious we've become to try and deal with these international matters through international cooperation, the more we're running into this kind of democratic deficit question. That's not easily resolved, and it can't just be dismissed. But I come back to this point that the answer to that is not going to be withdrawing within ourselves. I think it's going to be trying to democratize our own processes as countries to try and give people more assurance that people are listening to them, that listening to their concerns. I would make one point in defense of Macron is, I think what he was getting at is the nationalism that is defensible is a nationalism that is aimed towards some kind of moral purpose that's aimed towards high ideals, to achieving things together as a nation for ourselves in our own country and for the world at large. That is easily aligned with patriotism because you're trying to do what's best for your country. When nationalism just becomes, oh, we're different, we're separate from, we don't want to have anything to do with other nations, then I think you're retreating from those moral ambitions and those high ideals.
And yet that seems to be what's happening in more places than just the United States, Chantal.
Yes, but in more places than the United States takes away from the core problem, which is that the United States used to have some kind of leadership on issues like that and be a model for a different kind of nationalism. This notion that all boats rise when, when you rise your own, and the America first, the rest of the world is looking to take advantage of us, which is the kind of discourse that you've been hearing in the U.S. From the White House, goes against the grain and takes away something that a role that the U.S. since the Second World War at least had played, not always well, but had played.
So, Andre, you react to that then. Where does that leave us then?
Well, to your point, Chantal, the phrase normally goes, rising tide lifts all boats. But I think what people have been seeing, especially over the last 30, 35 years, is that the rising tide has been lifting yachts. And the failure of the center and the center left to articulate a vision for a model that gets away from people's wages and their lives being essentially stagnant, while the upper class continue to get richer, while multinational corporations can, let's say, stomp through Queens and get billions of dollars in concessions when the city can't even make the trains run on time. If you can't articulate a model that's contrary to that, then they're going to turn to some very dangerous ideas.
I think what's happening, particularly in recent years, is this alignment of nationalism and populism. And what you've got is this very toxic brew post 9/11, post financial crisis, et cetera, where elites are in bad odor, where people, it's very, very popular now to go out and denounce elites. And when you say...
Even when you are an elite, yeah.
Well, oftentimes when you are an elite,
Yeah.
that's right. But when the elites are also connected to these kind of international bodies, it's particularly in Europe, of course, where you've got the European Union trying to take more powers away from national governments, people pushing back against that, and they've got new fuel for their fire, if you will, post-financial crisis, and of course with the refugee crisis in Europe, where decisions are being made, I think in good faith and with the best purposes in mind, but nevertheless not necessarily always connecting to the democratic voice of the people in those countries as to how many refugees they're going to take in, et cetera. Some people are going to react badly to that, and I think that's part of what's adding fuel to this fire.
And Chantal, you can close us off on how our government then is dealing with it, given the kinds of things that Justin Trudeau was saying this week.
I think that's too tall an order for me to address, but I would just say this. I think that one of the ways that you fight this is not necessarily the central left having suddenly a vision that makes people who feel left behind feel better, but have institutions, starting with education, but others that mean that your kids, no matter how you feel, can aspire to be the elite. And I think that in Canada, for all that I've heard over the past 5 minutes, that is still possible. Part of the reason is we have kept higher education accessible, and those kind of policies, and the fact that people can partake in society and aspire to become better, I think that dream is still livable and attainable in Canada, and we do a disservice to ourselves to sit there and pretend that we have the problems of a society, for instance, like France, where it is very hard still to this day to move from one social class to another.
Okay, I gotta leave it there. Thank you, everyone. I know we just probably skimmed the surface, but you did a good job. Andrew, Chantal, and Andre, thank you. Before we go, be sure to subscribe to At Issue, the podcast, for extra content. This week, we're going to talk about a way easier topic, Trudeau bringing his trade agenda to China. Look for it on iTunes, any major podcast app, our website, cbcnews.ca/thenational.
Still ahead tonight on The National, it's the mineral that powers our technology, how miners in Ontario are racing to keep up with the demands for cobalt.
You and I can decide tomorrow to go out and buy an electric vehicle, and a lot of people can make that decision, but we as miners can't respond quickly enough. And so we're on this precipice of a global shortage of cobalt.
But first, this weekend on The National, I sit down with the amazing Alessia Cara for a Sunday interview. Lots of interesting topics, including the inspiration behind her hit song, Scars. I think of a song like Scars, and the video in there, there's another example of a song that is so different from what you would normally hear on the radio. How did that song and that video come about?
I've always wanted to make a song about self-esteem and about body positivity and just a celebration of differences, because I've always been insecure about certain things about myself, and I know a lot of people around me have. And I wanted to just use my voice to say something. And then that kind of turned into the video, where I tried very hard to make the lyrics match what was being shown. Just display all different kinds of people, different ages, different colors, different everything, in hopes that people can just celebrate themselves a bit more.
Sunday afternoon in New York, when NFL fans like to get together to talk a little football, lap up a few beers, and watch their favorite game. Except yesterday, with the NFL on strike, they had to make do with a substitute. The NBC network had rushed its telecast crew north to Toronto's Exhibition Stadium and airlifted its broadcast team up for a feverish one-day cram course on the Canadian game. They watched team practices, did their homework on the differences between them and us, and asked scholarly questions at the coach's press conference.
What's so unique about the run and shoot? I mean, I can sit there and tell everybody at home it's a run and shoot. They don't know what the shit that means. And neither do I. What does that mean?
They also studied tapes of recent CFL games.
Jake Godower? He's the commissioner.
All so they could sound smoothly erudite when it came time to expose virgin American viewers to the only professional football game in town. John Brody and Gene Washington have graduated in the intricacies of the run and shoot. Too late to turn back now. NBC has promised its viewers football, and football they shall have. Football from this NBC control center to the bars and living rooms of America. Exotic football. Football with peculiar rules and strange names in a foreign land. Football they'll have to sit still for if they insist on their Sunday afternoon football fix.
In 5, 4, 3, and lose the insert into 2, and Mike Q. Crookie.
NBC Sports welcomes you to Toronto, Canada, on the shores of Lake Ontario, where today...
NFL Stadium stands silent, but we're there to fill the void. We put our best foot forward.
Ready to kick it off now. And here's his kick downfield. He drills it down. It's going to be...
How's this for an opening play to grab the fans? They're gonna love us.
We will watch this again, and you can see the wide shot. This is the old run and shoot. They've got 3 receivers.
The old run and shoot? Hard to believe he just heard about it for the first time the day before.
Like they're ready to go.
We give him action. We dive. We pass. We play our little Canadian hearts out. And we let them interview us during the game, something they can't do in the NFL.
Was there any weakness that...
Do we get any appreciation?
And all these guys would love to be playing in the NFL, I think.
Is that sort of like junior league or sandlot football? I mean, do you go up there and play for a while until you're good enough for American football?
The fickle Yankees want Harold, the bartender, to take a democratic vote, the American way, on whether or not they should continue to watch this foreign brand of their beloved NFL.
Okay, folks, we're going to take a voice vote to see if we continue watching CFL or switch over to baseball. Canadian Football League. Those who want it, let's hear you. Okay. Those that want to switch over to baseball?
It's a rough crowd here. They take our moose, they take our fish, they won't take our game. We have bombed in the Big Apple. We gave them our best shot, and they turned the dial to baseball. Obviously, you can't convert hardcore NFL junkies.
You voted for baseball. That's right. Well, it's a matter of priorities. I mean, in other circumstances, I might prefer to see Canadian football, but right now with the pennant races and everything, I'd rather watch baseball.
We are live on the National, and we're keeping a close eye on California tonight. Authorities have just released grim new numbers about the wildfires, now estimating more than 600 people are missing, 63 confirmed dead. Cooler weather has helped crews get a handle on the so-called Camp Fire in the northern part of the state. It is now 40% contained. And we have a sad update on a story we brought you last night about a Newfoundland woman who had been desperately searching for her missing loved ones in Paradise, California. The town completely destroyed by the fires, and Megan Janes told the CBC today the remains of her aunt and uncle are believed to have been found, though they're still waiting for DNA confirmation.
This has been one of the toughest decisions I have ever had to make.
Former New Brunswick Premier Brian Gallant is stepping down as leader of the provincial Liberals. He was first elected Premier in 2014, but his government was reduced to a minority after September's election and then fell 2 weeks ago in a no-confidence vote. He'll remain leader until the party chooses a replacement.
Now to a 21st century treasure hunt buried deep within the Canadian Shield. Unless you're a geologist, chances are you don't know much about cobalt. But it is the key element in the batteries that power everything from watches to smartphones to electric cars. And in a world increasingly fueled by batteries, a sleepy mining town in northern Ontario could hold the power. The CBC's Peter Armstrong paid a visit to Cobalt, Ontario.
There's a stillness to towns like these, almost haunted by the idle mines and the ghost of prosperity that packed up when the mines shut down. But hope has returned to Cobalt, Ontario.
The potential here is huge. This thing's typical like a cobalt camp.
Frank Bassa, CEO of Canada Cobalt Works, is going back into this 100-year-old silver mine looking for a rare and increasingly precious metal, the mineral this town was named after.
So here is a high-grade vein right above you, and you can see that's over a foot wide there. See a lot of pink right there.
So all of this just right up in here, that's cobalt.
Yeah, it's all pink, and that's high-grade cobalt. So what we've done over here...
When miners dug this shaft in the 1930s, they knew there was cobalt here, but it wasn't much use back then.
Actually, almost anything in here runs cobalt. Mother Nature.
Right.
You know? And what they did was they just took the high-grade silver.
They left all the good stuff behind.
They left all the cobalt behind. Well, nobody wanted cobalt in those days, eh?
Back then, cobalt was used as an indicator that silver was close by. Now, it's one of the top performing commodities in the world. The price skyrocketed last year as demand soared.
What would that mean for this town, for this region?
Huge. Most people don't know the history of this place, but you know, they actually had an opera here, had a ballet. They had streetcars. They had, you know, actually the hockey team started here. The Toronto Exchange started here. The provincial police started here. Northern miners started here, you know.
Right. They found silver here in 1904 while laying the railway, at the time making cobalt, not Toronto, the economic hub of the province. But by the 60s, mining slowed, the region fell on hard times. Now there hasn't been an active operating mine here since the 1980s.
And then the girl from the bank would phone the mine.
The retired miners still gather most mornings at the old Silver Cafe and rehash tales from the good old days.
Everybody was working, everybody had $1 in their pocket. We had lots of stores, we had grocery stores, drug stores, hotels, everything. Now we have nothing.
Bill Montgomery made 58 cents an hour working the mines when he started in 1946.
We had one stope there around 27 feet wide.
You're kidding. 27 feet of just little dots of cobalt everywhere.
Well, it was all
disseminated. Right.
You guys have a good day in town.
There are a lot of anecdotes, the old-timers themselves, or stories handed down. Go here, you're going to find silver, you're going to find cobalt. And it's the charm of a town like this.
Trent Mell's job is trying to separate fact from fiction. His company, First Cobalt, has spent millions of dollars drilling and poring over core samples. As the world goes electric, he knows phone companies and car companies will need ever more cobalt. So he's racing to find enough to meet that demand.
You and I can decide tomorrow to go out and buy an electric vehicle, and a lot of people can make that decision, but we as miners can't respond quickly enough. And so we're on this precipice of a global shortage of cobalt.
So we went deep into the woods where First Cobalt is drilling 24 hours a day.
I mean, this is a huge operation.
The company's lead geologist, Frank Santaguido, and his crew prodding the Canadian shield looking for signs.
So is this what you're looking for?
We haven't found any metals or mineralization in this particular rock, but these are the right kind of rocks that the cobalt is found in.
Each piece of rock reveals a part of the picture. Is there enough to warrant a mine here? For now, they can only say, maybe.
It may be in that next drill hole.
Always hope.
Always.
Hope that after all these years, mining and the prosperity that comes with it could return to this region. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Cobalt, Ontario.
Up next on The National, our moment of the day. Three brothers from Edmonton who hit the perfect note and ended up on a Netflix series.
In December, we actually got a call from the producers of the show Motown Magic, and they were looking for a lead vocalist for the theme song. 1, 2, 3, assemble the storm.
The RCMP has had almost 48 hours to come up with some answers about the bungled security operation at 24 Sussex. So far, this is all it has had to say.
It seems quite evident by the fact that this incident occurred that security was breached in a serious fashion.
The Prime Minister summed up the security mess the best while speaking of the way his wife handled the break-in. Aline Chrétien was the one who confronted the intruder and raised the alarm.
And I think that I'm lucky that she was there.
He certainly is, because the RCMP took some time to show up. Sources close to the investigation say there were 3 constables on duty that night, 1 at each of the 2 gates, 1 roaming the grounds. Nevertheless, the intruder managed to slip through the security net at some point, police say, prior to 2:23 a.m. Police say he got inside at about 2:45 a.m. by smashing the glass of a door on the west side. CBC News has been told there is a security system inside the house, but it wasn't working properly that night. The intruder apparently spent at least 15 minutes inside, making his way up to the 2nd floor to the entrance hall of the Chrétien's bedroom. At about 3 a.m., Aline Chrétien saw him, locked both sets of bedroom doors, picked up the lift and ring hotline, and alerted the constable at the gate. CBC News has also been told the constable then radioed the sergeant in charge, who was on duty at the detachment a kilometre down the road at Rideau Hall. Nothing more was done until the sergeant arrived at 24 Sussex with reinforcements. Even then, they didn't go right in. They surrounded the house first to make sure nobody escaped. When they finally did go in to confront the intruder, a full 7 minutes after being called, sources say he was sitting on a sofa outside the Chrétien's bedroom, holding a knife.
In the 6 to 7 minutes it took to respond to the call, they could have been murdered, right?
That is a situation that the individual was in the house, there's no question about that. The individual was armed. The individual did not attempt to get into the private quarters.
The man arrested in connection with the break-in is 34-year-old André Dallaire, a man with no criminal record. In court, he was charged with attempted murder, on top of other charges of break and enter, being unlawfully in a dwelling, and possession of a weapon. Little is known about him, except that he worked at this convenience store in the Montreal area, was a good employee, quiet, and according to his boss, was never really interested in politics or the referendum.
If he was and didn't show, he was so reserved and, he kept everything for himself,
André Dallaire will now undergo a 30-day psychiatric assessment at an Ottawa hospital.
When we last left it, James found the incriminating cell phone bill.
Yes.
But then Hillary confronted him with his affair with her twin.
I cannot get enough of this relationship.
No, it's good. Okay, here we go. Oh. God.
You're spelling bullshit all over the place. There's a room full of bullshit right now, Hillary. I want a divorce.
Oh, plot twist. Oh, God, I love it when they drink.
A new season of Baroness Von Sketch Show. Tuesdays at 9 on CBC.
Their names are Mark, Zachary, and Seth James, 3 brothers from Edmonton who sound an awful lot like 5 more famous ones. In fact, they've just sung their way onto the theme song for a new series on Netflix, Motown Magic. And it was the youngest, Zachary, who took the lead, and for reasons you'll see in a moment, that is our moment of the day.
My name is Zachary, and I'll be doing ABC by the Jackson 5. In December, we actually got a call from the producers of the show Motown Magic. They were looking for lead vocals for the theme song. It was ABC by the Jackson 5, and they looked all around the world for somebody who can sing that. Then they found us.
The 3 of us, we have a very important role. Zachary, he has the kind of charming thing. Mark, you mostly see like a lot of our flyers, and he designs a lot of things. And my part of the group, I like to get things done so that we can move on.
1, 2, 3.
We really want everyone to support us, and you could go ahead and watch it on Netflix. It's gonna be coming out on November the 20th. That's in about 6 days.
Listen, I love that guy. And did you see his little dimple? And they're great. And they're already such show business guys because they're already promoting their shows and trying to get us to come see them. It was just lovely, lovely.
Of all the fantastic Motown songs, I think ABC is maybe one of the catchiest and underrated till now. And you know what's interesting is how, again, social media is the way that people from all over the world can get on the national stage. Ruth B. in Edmonton did it, Alessia Cara did it, and now these guys are doing it.
Yeah. Well, in this case, you know, these guys are super talented, but their parents are also pretty smart. So they put one of their covers on YouTube, and a producer from the Ellen DeGeneres show back in 2016 saw it and said, you know, we need to get these kids on the show. Of course, Ellen said, yes, we do. They came on the show, and that was that. It is amazing.
That's how I became a host of The National. Similar story.
Very nice.
That's a national for Thursday, November 15th. Good night.
Night.
Good night.